Aloha, everyone. Hope you're having a glorious day. We are on this wild ride of the revelation of Jesus Christ as given to his disciple John. And today we have chapters 8 and 9. It is the seventh seal, and that's why I've combined 8 and 9. And the seventh seal, let's dive right in because they are 7 trumpets. Just as a review, in chapter 7, we learn about the interlude between the sixth seal, bringing the earth to the brink of wrath, and the seventh seal. So John hears a mighty army. Now this goes back to Numbers 2, the people of God, an army doing battle, conquering through suffering, through their faithful witness, and even to the point of death. And John hears the mighty army, but he sees an innumerable, victorious multitude, and they survive the Great Tribulation. Now, this is fulfilling a prophecy going back to the promise of Abraham in Genesis. The multitude is sealed by God, protected from God's wrath, but they are not protected from tribulation. So let's dive right into this seventh seal, the breaking of the seventh seal. So the seventh seal, after its breaking, there's silence for the prayers of the saints to be heard. Then thunder, lightning, and the anticipation of judgment. We learn the seventh seal is 7 trumpets, and they overlap with the seals, but they are a progression of intensification. See, the seals affect 1/4 of the earth, but the trumpets, well, they go to 1/3 of the earth. They are impacting 1/3 of the earth. The trumpets and vials hearken to the Exodus plagues upon Egypt. Read about that in Exodus 6 through 11, chapter 6 through 11 in Exodus. And these Egyptian plagues are an archetype of what is coming upon the earth through these trumpets. Notice hail in 8:7, water turned to blood in 8:8, and 8:10 through 11, sun darkened in 8:12, and locusts in 9:1 through 11. These trumpets have a 4+2 construction, 4 symbolizing creation, and these first 4 trumpets are consequences of the fall on creation. The next two, the 5 and 6, are the consequences of spiritual fall for the people of the earth. So first 4 trumpets form a unit like seals about God's created earth, but go further, affecting the sky and the seas. So there's this intensification as we edge near to wrath and the return of Christ. We learn about the powers and principalities, the forces of darkness contributing to the evil and suffering in the world. The seals and trumpets are showing us the consequences of misusing God's dominion and the fall of man. In the 5th and 6th trumpet, we now learn of the influence of the fall of Satan and his angels. See, the first woe are the locusts, and they emerge from the abyss, the demon world, in 11:7. Amidst smoke, demonic beings unleashing their fury on wicked humanity. Now, this follows a 5-month life cycle of the locusts. It's a limited time. And the locusts are these grotesque, chaotic combination of a different animal and human parts in contrast to the 4 living creatures from heaven's throne room. Now, their leader of the locusts is Abaddon, Apollyon, the destroyer, which is also a play on Apollo, the Greek god Apollo. It's Satan, right? And so this 6th trumpet signifies the second woe, and up from the smoke and sulfur from the mouths of the horses represent these demonic beings, these riders able to kill humanity whose response is refusal to repent. Now, just as an aside, if you want to go to Song of Songs 8, 11 to 12, those who have not tended to God's vineyard are the two of 10,000 times 10,000. Now, the intensity in the action gets so high, we need another interlude, a reprieve to understand the church's relationship to these trumpets. Just like the seals where we took an interlude, we're going to take another interlude. So this is a great time to talk about the structure of chapters 6 through 20, the visions of the consequences of the falls and salvation. It's not told in a single linear fashion like a novel. Instead, there's a retelling of certain events from different vantage points. Heaven, then told from earth, like instant replays at a football game from different points of view. Now, if you read Revelation straight through, it can be confusing because it is not linearly chronological. Here are proof examples of the construction of the structure of replays like from a football game. Babylon is fallen. This is mentioned in 14 and 18. Would it be two Babylons that are fallen, or is this the same event recounted from a different angle? The beast comes up from the abyss. We see in 11 and 13. The winepress of the wrath of God is found in 14 and 19. A 3.5 year very important time period, mentioned 3 times in chapters 11, 12, and 13. This 3.5 year time period is also discussed twice in the Old Testament. Prophet Daniel, chapters 7 and 12. So this is a great time to introduce harmonization, which gives you great confidence in your understanding. Let's see how this works. When you find a passage in a different chapter or book, you can harmonize these events. Harmonizing these parallel passages gives us a good understanding of the text and confidence in reconstructing the works of the authors of the Bible throughout the Old Testament and New Testament. You line up the concurrent events and we can construct a fuller picture. Here are more coinciding events in Revelation. Now, angels pouring out in great river Euphrates in chapters 9 and 16. And the mountain and island moved in chapters 6 and 16. So wrath in chapters 6 and 11, and the great day of God's wrath in chapters 6, 11, and 16. The seals, trumpets, and bowls or vials have coinciding events as we see a retelling of similar events or some of the same events from a different perspective. And we can gain a perspective of these seals, trumpets, and vials or bowls. And so we get this relationship of intensification and overlap. And other passages can be brought in, like 2 Timothy. The world has become the kingdom of the Lord, and his appearing, and his kingdom. Revelation's cosmic signs can be linked in harmonizing verses with Jesus' words in the Olivet Discourse, in the 3 Gospels found in Matthew 24, the parallels in Mark 13 and Luke 21. So the sun became as black as sackcloth made of hair, and the full moon became blood red, and the stars the stars in the sky fell to the earth. Jesus' words are foretelling this in the Olivet Discourse. The sun will be darkened and the moon will not give its light. The stars will fall from heaven. So he's linking all of these events. And when you put these together, you start seeing the relationship develop between these events, and they are consistent throughout other passages in the Bible. Here we see the relationship of the trouble coming upon the world for their misuse of God-given dominion in seals, intensifying with the trumpets and a period of great tribulation, intensifying again in vials, then cosmic signs of the judgment of God's wrath, carried out with Christ's return to establish his millennial reign. And so we see this pattern when we harmonize the Olivet Discourse. We can see this consistent pattern: birth pains, tribulation, great tribulation, harmonized with Revelation. And so a natural response is to understand these big events. See, the birth pains and tribulation and great tribulation have to happen before Babylon is fallen. And Babylon has to fall before the elect are gathered. And the elect have to be gathered in order for the wedding feast of the Lamb to occur. And the wedding feast of the Lamb occurs before, or the elect are gathered out of the earth before God's wrath is poured out onto the earth. And then Satan has to be bound for a 1,000-year millennial reign. Satan's defeat comes after that. The great white throne judgment, the new heaven and the new earth are created. Heaven and earth become one. God's dwelling place in heaven becomes one with the earth. So here is an overview of all of the events that we are going to unpack as we go through these chapters 6 through 22, the visions of the consequence of the falls, the judgments, as well as salvation. One more detail from the third trumpet. We learn of the burning star named wormwood. This was a bitter herb used for medicinal purposes. To understand the significance of drinking the bitter water, you must read the judgment curse on the adulterous wife in Numbers. The same sour wine or bitter waters of judgment is what Jesus drinks as he goes to the cross. We will see this play out later in Revelation with the faithful bride of the Lamb and the adulterous harlot, the false religion, the prostitute of Babylon. Looking forward to discussing chapter 10 next time.